This is a box, but it's not just any box. It's actually a box that I ordered from GameStop and told them to just jam a bunch of retro stuff in there. Now, I did pick out each thing individually, but for a while now, GameStop has been taking trade-ins, probably past couple of years or so, of retro games, accessories, and systems, and they've been distributing them through their website, which has given people mixed results. I've seen some people get really excited because they got like a full boxed copy of a game that they figure would be loose. Then I've seen people just get the completely wrong game or just not the game at all in a large box of orders. So I decided to just start throwing stuff in a cart. I took advantage of their Cyber Monday deal with retro games where it was buy two, get the third free. And I just ordered a bunch of stuff. I ordered games, I ordered an accessory, a controller for a system, and then I ordered an entire system, and they jammed it all in this little box. I also managed to order some games that I think would trip them up somewhat, and that they could be fake. So I figure this would be I guess a fun way to kind of look at the stuff they're ordering through the retros games without, I guess, telling them who's ordering it or anything. They don't know who I am here anyway, so it doesn't matter to them. We've already made fun of their refurbished consoles at this point, so why not take a look at their retro games? And I'm hoping, now that we're going into 2019 and they've had years of experience doing this, that it would actually be good and wouldn't be terrible, so hoping they surprise us. Now, I've yet to open this at all. The most I did was rip the shipping label off of this side, but otherwise, I don't even know what's in. I mean, I know it's supposed to be in here, but I don't know what is in here condition-wise. So I figure we're gonna cut this guy open. We got some tape up here, shipping tape, standard stuff, and we can start ripping into it. It does feel like there's quite a bit of bubble wrap because it's kind of puffed a bit on the top. Usually that's from bubble wrap, so I'm hoping that means that everything is protected and not destroyed at all in here. So there we go, and we're open, and this should be, I guess, the invoice of what's in here. Let me just make sure there's no, I guess, information. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. There is a little bit of information at the top. I can just rip that off, though. And we can take a look at what is supposed to be in here before we start taking stuff out of here so we have an idea. So this is actually a return label, I guess, just in case there's any issues down here. And what do we have here? We have, there's an order number. So this is our entire list of stuff. The entire amount came out to $111, and it included Pokemon Yellow. That one was actually free. That was one of the free ones on the Game Boy. A PS2 DualShock Controller. Pokemon Fire Red. That one was that free? No, that one wasn't free. Crash Bandicoot on the original PlayStation. That one was free. I wanted to get a disc-based game just in case, see if it's scratched up or anything. PlayStation 1 System Complete. Metroid Fusion on the Game Boy Advance, and Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. The reason I got some of these Game Boy games, a couple reasons. One, I wanted to see if the batteries were still good in them, which we'll test at the end. I'll actually get the GameCube out with the Game Boy adapter and plug it in and capture footage, so it's pretty easy to see everything. So we'll test that at the end to see how everything is. And then I wanted to get some of these Game Boy Advance games because some of them, like Fire Red or even Metroid Fusion, can actually be fake at times. It's pretty easy to find fake copies of those, and I'll actually go a few ways you can tell. So let's actually get this guy up. Well, here's our power cord right away for the PlayStation 1 system. It should be an original PlayStation 1 console, like straight up, not the Slim or anything. That is our DualShock controller. I wanted to get a controller that was fairly old to see what the condition would be if it was all chewed up. From the outside here, it looks fairly good. Actually, I want to put this box to the side, kind of out of the way, and then we'll kind of go through everything and look at it right here. So, this is our PlayStation 2 DualShock controller, and actually, it's in pretty good shape. DualShock 2. It looks good, actually. It's official. It's not like, these parts aren't really chewed up or anything. Now they've been used a bit because they're slightly worn down where, you're actually using them and they'll kind of wear the sticks down. Buttons are all good, nothing sticky. Other end looks good. Cable is not chewed, not frayed that I'm seeing here. Huh. Well, all right. First item, PlayStation 2 DualShock controller. Looks good. So they sent us all the Game Boy games in little bags, it looks like. So these are all done up in they just put them in Ziploc bags, so, all right, I guess. I don't know how else you'd send it if you didn't have, I guess if you didn't have the box, the original box or anything. So we're gonna look right at Pokemon Fire Red. The label looks correct. because there are times you can see the label is incorrect. This is actually a good looking label, so it looks real so far. The best way to tell, though, is Pokemon Fire Red, they don't have batteries in them. See, the Game Boy Advance didn't actually need batteries to save their games. They needed batteries to keep the clock. If you know, there's like Pokemon Sapphire, Pokemon Ruby, those have internal clocks, and that's what the battery is for. So why don't we kick this open real quick and take a look. If there's a battery inside, there's a good chance that it's fake, but if there's not, and it looks good, this is probably a real copy of Fire Red. So there's no battery in there, and that's good. This little contact there is kind of worn. Otherwise, though, this is the real game, so it's not fake at all. That is a real copy of Fire Red. So 2 for 2 so far. This is looking good. We'll also test this one. I'm going to test all these Game Boy Advance games at the end, so if you want to check that out, that'll be there. But we're going to go through, see if everything saves, there's nothing corrupted, everything works as well for these. And so far, I have to give them some credit. 2 items in, both of them look, I guess, satisfactory. They both look good. Next one we have is Pokemon Yellow. Label again looks good. They have it on this, again, in this Ziploc bag, but I don't really know how else you would send it if you don't have the original box. The label looks clean on this. Like, it actually looks really good. So, again, so far, so good. Let's open this guy up, though. I just want to make sure it's all clean. All right, and moment of truth. Okay, so slight issue here. This is a pretty poor way to do this. Now, if you see right here, we have a lot of black tape around this battery. That is the temporary way to do it. Now, they could have taken this as a trade-in, and the person who traded it in did this, but whenever I would take these games as trade-in at the stores I would work at, I would always open it up. We had batteries on hand, ready to go, and I would always solder them in, and that's what I'm going to do with this one, actually. I have batteries here. I'm going to desolder this one. I'll solder that in, but we might as well see if it saves like this at the end, as probably most people wouldn't do that, and they'll basically have to live with what they get, or they can send it back. But that is... It's actually, I think it's more work to go through trying to tape that in just right than to just solder it and be done, and you have a much better connection. So, unfortunately, that one I can't give a pass on. It's a shame because if you look at this label, the label's clean. The cartridge looks pretty good for being as old as it is. Even the connectors down here are clean. No water damage or anything on it, but that battery, unfortunately, ruins everything. All right, so far we're 2 for 3. This is Crash Bandicoot on the PlayStation 1, once again in a Ziploc bag. I would have preferred they had this in a jewel case of some kind. See, jewel cases are very cheap. You can get them without too much issue and would have provided way more protection than putting in a Ziploc bag in one of these sleeves. So we get this out. Let's double check, see if there's any scratching on the top. The top side damage is generally the worst part. That's where you usually have issue. If there's no top side damage, usually you can buff out the other side. But I'm looking at this. It looks like it has gone through some kind of machine, I guess, because it still has some compound there. So maybe they resurfaced these there. Yeah, so this has gone through a resurfacing machine, which, good or bad, I guess, depending on your... on your view of a refurbishment machine, one of the ones that actually buffs it down. And the reason I can tell that is because it's impossible to see, I think, on camera, but there are lines that are going around here in like a kind of a circular pattern, and that is usually how you can tell. Now, usually those circular pattern ones aren't picked up by the laser, so most likely this will work because there's no obvious holes, there's no scratching, and honestly, the PlayStation 1 games are very resilient. Even if it's pretty scratched up, a lot of times they'll still work. So this seems satisfactory. The one issue I have is that it came in this sleeve. If you're gonna ship a disc at GameStop, at least spend 5 cents and get yourself a jewel case. It'll save you a lot of headache as well because you will have less returns of this getting damaged or whatnot. All right, next up we have Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. And again, Ziploc bag, you don't have the box. I kind of get it. So this is, of course, Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. The back label is fairly damaged. This is kind of what you run into with these internet orders through GameStop and not selling them in stores. You can't examine this. For example, if you're a series collector and you're looking for a clean copy of this, you might be inclined to pass on this if you see this in store because it's ripped. The back is easily replaceable though, right? That's not what has the label or anything, but still you might say, I want it all complete. I want it how it was originally. And I don't want the back label damaged. I don't want this all you know, like dirty or anything. The front looks all right, though. The label on the front looks good. I think most people who are trying to collect would have been okay with this label. And the front, just maybe the back. So how about we take a look inside and see what's going on. We can see if it's the original battery, and I can tell you now that battery's not going to last much longer if it is. I'll be curious if it's taped, because if it is, then we'll have a nice little running theme going here of taped batteries from GameStop. So let's see what we get here. Nope, looks like it is the original battery. Yep. So this is the original battery still in here. It's not changed out. That's something else. Again, if one of these comes into the store with the age of these batteries, generally they last about 20 years, and we're pretty much past that at this point, and usually they're 15 to 20 years. So 20 is on the long end, 15 is on the short end, but I would have changed this out anyway if I'm selling it. And most people prefer that, even if they end up having to pay a little extra. Maybe they come in with their copy and they want it changed out. They don't mind, because of course you don't want all your stuff to be erased, whether it's track times or whatnot. So again, the game itself looks okay. Like, this doesn't look damaged at all. The connectors are darker, but they should work fine. No water damage, nothing really badly damaged, but that battery is stock, and that's gonna really annoy some people. This might not even save now, but the backing, unfortunately, is something you run into if you're a collector. It is seriously a grab bag on, will this be a good looking copy or not? Fortunately, the label's not damaged, so again, this is passable. However, that battery inside, again, I think really hurts it. All right, next up we have Metroid Fusion, one of my favorite games on the Game Boy Advance. I actually did not have this game, and I wanted to pick it up anyway because I can play it on the GameCube with the Game Boy player and the HDMI adapter, so I was really happy to get this one. Now, on the outside, the label has some wear to it, but it's nothing game-breaking or really bad looking for collectors. You know, it's not going to ruin your collection or anything, so good there. Let's open it up and just make sure it's real. Okay, so this is a real copy of Metroid Fusion. It threw me off a bit because it has a battery. Metroid Fusion, believe it or not, is one of the few Game Boy Advance games that used SRAM and then a battery to save its games, as we just saw Fire Red not have a battery. This was actually an interesting case because halfway through production, they changed from the battery to just using a standard EEPROM to save things, so it's an odd case, but GameStop actually has a legit copy here despite having this battery. It kind of throws people off a lot, and I even had to double check myself just to make sure I wasn't going crazy. But yes, this is a real copy, so once again, both Game Boy Advance games and the Game Boy game seem to have passed. Now, one thing I did notice with this, though, is that is the original battery. So we'll see if it's even saving, as these have already stopped saving for some people. So there's a chance that this game doesn't even save, which we'll touch on at the end. Well, I think all we have left is the system. So I already got the power cable out. We got AV cables here. Here's the controller. It is... oh, looks pretty good, actually. This is an original PlayStation that I ordered. Like I said, it actually looks pretty good. Like, the connectors look good, it's not frayed or anything, and the controller itself looks really solid. It's not like gross feeling or looking or anything. None of the buttons stick. They sound pretty good. So far, GameStop's been pretty good with their retro controller games so far, so I'm pretty happy about this. You know what I would have been curious about, and I might do it next time, just to see, is Nintendo 64 controllers. Those have like really bad sticks. I wonder if they changed those sticks out. I don't know. So here is our PlayStation system. Here's our original PlayStation system. That works. Everything, all the buttons feel good here. So that's actually really cool. And wait a minute. What? They have a refurbishment sticker on this thing, right? This is a refurbishment sticker from GameStop. Did GameStop refurbish a PlayStation 1? What did they have to do to it? Did they change the laser? What do you have to do to a PlayStation 1 system? Like, I don't know what you need to do to it for it to function. Like, outside of it not reading, because we used to have to do all kinds of crazy stuff to make this thing work. If it wasn't reading, we'd turn it upside down. We would open and shut the door until it finally started spinning. There was all kinds of stuff we had to do, but this is a very clean PlayStation, and this is like a $35 system, so I don't know why you would pay somebody hours of their time to fix it. It's very weird. We had tons of PlayStation 1 systems, and if it didn't work, it wasn't worth ordering a laser for $15 to $20 and fixing it, because then you got the controller and power cords and stuff. It makes no sense. But what's funny is I ordered this PlayStation 1 system for a Tech Wave, and that refurbishment sticker just made it way more interesting. I'm sorry, I have to know if it at least powers on. I mean, I see GameStop refurbish on it, and you guys have seen what we've been dealing with here with some of those more complex systems. The PlayStation 1 admittedly isn't very complex inside, so for the time it was, absolutely. But nowadays you look at it and you go, it's pretty simplistic. Let me plug this in, because now I have to know if this even works. Let's put that Crash Bandicoot CD in here, and just see what happens here. If it'll work. Let's see if it spins it up. So it doesn't sound like it's working. Let's try it again. See what happens. Sometimes you gotta close it, a couple times. That's not a good sound. Can you hear that? It's trying to read the Crash disc, the Crash Bandicoot disc. So there's also a chance that this Crash Bandicoot disc is not reading. That's fun. Oh, that's a good time. It's trying to read it, but it can't quite do it. And then just stops spinning. It should sound different than that. Usually when you play a PlayStation 1 disc, usually it spins up and you can hear it start to do that, and you hear the laser usually move around. It's having a hard time reading, so it's either the Crash disc or the PlayStation itself. What we'll do is, I guess we'll save that one for a Tech Wave and see how that works out. But I guess tune into that when we tear down the GameStop refurbished PlayStation 1 system. Never thought I'd have to say that. So I went ahead and tested all 3 of the Game Boy games to see if they save, and Pokemon Yellow does save, so that was surprising, although it is held together with tape, so who knows how long that'll last. I'll probably just solder a battery in and add it to my collection that way. Metroid Fusion, the one with the original battery, also saves, so good news there. Although this battery that's in here now as the stock one is probably coming up to the end of its life, as this game came out in like 2002, 2003, so yeah, it's 15 years old, I guess, at that point, so that battery is also coming up to the end of its life there. And then Fire Red worked great. This appears to be a completely legit copy, and of course there's no battery in this one, it just saves to EEPROM, and that's it. So yeah, Fire Red was also very good. Some things GameStop should be trying to do better is your disc-based games, GameStop. Look what I'm doing. How hard is that? Yeah, put it in a jewel case of some kind. It'll work to protect it much better than one of these sleeves in a Ziploc bag. You can still put it in a Ziploc bag, but any kind of hard shell case will, of course, protect it. And I think for a nickel or two, you could do that. That's not a big deal. I need to look at this PlayStation 1 a bit more to see what's going on with it exactly, because it could also just be Crash, although I put another game in there, even a music CD, and it was still kind of doing the same thing. So we'll get into that in a Tech Wave down the road when we actually look at this PlayStation 1. Super Mario Kart actually looks good outside of the back of it, which is all kind of torn up, and the back casing's kind of dirty. That's kind of what we get for buying, essentially, sight unseen with these games. I've heard some people just get full boxed copies, which is great. And then I've heard people get completely missing labels or even just the wrong game. This is the right game, as Mario Kart has kind of a weird board. It used an interesting chipset inside, but otherwise, I'm shocked at this controller, to be honest, the DualShock 2, and I'm shocked at the regular controller that came with the PlayStation, because controllers usually get chewed up. These look good. If I had to put a letter grade on what GameStop sent me today, I'd give them a C. I think it was half and half. I think the old battery here, the shoddy battery work here, the PlayStation 1 appearing not to work, but being refurbished, which is very weird, and Crash Bandicoot having swirl marks from a machine and not being in a case. Those are things that hurt it, but from what I've seen from other people, this seems better than what they would usually do, so I guess they're getting better, although this doesn't mean that your order will be exactly like this. It could be better, it could be worse, so we'll see going forward. Maybe I'll do another order at the end of next year to see if they've improved further, but who knows. Thanks, guys, for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It does help out. Make sure you get subscribed because we have a bunch of other tech reviews and openings and some other cool stuff coming up. So you want to get subscribed for that. And I'll see you guys in the next video.